You remember that watch from Ryan? The keepsake you always cherished. I sold it, just so you know. On Christmas Eve, in the living room of our family home, my father's words were so calm, so casual, they almost sounded ordinary. It was as if he were just checking tomorrow's garbage collection schedule. For a moment, I honestly wondered if something was wrong with my ears. My brain completely rejected the meaning of his words. Sold? By who? What? That watch from Ryan? Without paying any attention to my frozen expression, my father continued speaking as he sliced into the roast chicken on the table. Your sister Emily, her husband's business wasn't going well, and they were drowning in debt. Doesn't that sound pitiful? So I sold the watch, and it wiped the debt clean. She was finally able to relax and welcome the new year. Just now, she was crying, saying it was the best Christmas present ever. Right. Emily? Prompted by our father, my sister looked down and muttered in a small voice. I'm sorry, Chloe. Thank you. There was hardly a trace of guilt in her voice. It was filled with the pure relief of someone whose burden had just been lifted. My throat was bone dry, and when I tried to speak, only the sound of cracked air came out. With trembling lips, I forced out the words with every bit of strength I had left. Why would you do something like that without even asking me? Despite the anguish in my voice, it didn't reach him at all. Looking genuinely baffled and with a hint of disdain, my father exaggeratedly shook his head. Permission? Why are you saying something so cold? We're family, aren't we? Your real sister was in desperate trouble. And besides, be a little realistic. You're holed up in the house every single day. Keeping something so valuable locked up in a safe? That's nothing but a waste. But now it has helped someone. I'm sure Ryan is smiling down from heaven, thinking, I'm proud of my wife for helping her family. Smiling? No, absolutely not. This was about to be the third winter since my husband Ryan passed away. In a world without him, nothing is crueler than a day like Christmas, overflowing with symbols of happiness. The city lights and the laughter of lovers all turn into thorns that stab at me. So again this year, I stayed quiet in this little room, waiting for the holy night to pass. Because this room was the only shelter that protected me. In the sanctum of that shelter, in the drawer of my dresser, slept his Rolex watch. It wasn't just some luxury timepiece. It was proof that Ryan and I had lived our lives together. On the day he won his first big competition, he shyly fastened it onto my wrist and said, This is a symbol of our strength and a token of my gratitude to you. On the final day, when illness had ravaged his body and he hovered at the edge of death, he placed it in my hand with fingers that were little more than bone and said, This isn't my time anymore. It's yours now. I want you to treat it as if it's a part of you. Letting go of that watch, which was Ryan's soul itself, was something I could never imagine doing, even if the world turned upside down. And yet, each of my father's words felt like a red-hot iron stake, driven deeper and deeper into my heart. The burning sorrow evaporated instantly, leaving behind a whirlpool of pitch-black, ice-cold, quiet rage. This wasn't a gift. This was the most vile and cruel violence, hidden behind a mask of good intentions. Ryan had seen through my family for who they really were long ago. He understood better than anyone that, to people like them, my kindness was nothing more than an endlessly exploitable weakness. That's exactly why he entrusted that watch to me, saying, Treat it as a part of you. The word family rolled so easily off my father's tongue. At that moment, I finally understood that this word was the invisible chain that had bound me all these years. And unless I broke that chain with my own hands, I wouldn't even be able to keep my final promise to Ryan. Something inside me broke, quietly and irreversibly. After my father's last words, I didn't say anything. I just quietly rose from my seat. Behind me, I could hear my mother's hysterical voice shouting, Chloe, where are you going? That's so rude. But it no longer reached me. I opened the front door and rushed out into the cold Christmas night air as if fleeing. My name is Chloe Anderson, and I am 34 years old. 3 years ago, I lost the only person I ever loved, my husband, Ryan, to illness. Ever since I was a child, the adults around me always called me a kind girl. My family. A father who is authoritarian and firmly believes his own values are absolute. A mother who never opposes him and always sides with him. And a younger sister, Emily, who has comfortably benefited from their favoritism and has been spoiled her entire life. In this small social unit called family, my so-called kindness has functioned as a very convenient tool for them. The only person who ever tried to save me from my timid shell was Ryan. He had an uncanny ability to see through me, whether I was forcing a smile or holding back feelings I couldn't put into words. Chloe, it's okay to be angry. It's okay to be selfish sometimes. He used to say that like a mantra. Your life belongs to you and no one else. Only when I was with him could I truly breathe. He was the only one who saw my kindness, not as a weakness, but as a virtue worth protecting. After losing him, who had been my entire world, I withdrew once again into my thick shell. The only thing I had left, my one and only irreplaceable treasure, was his Rolex, the keepsake he left behind. It was my lifeline, the final anchor that tethered me to this world. And now that it had been taken from me, I didn't know what to do. Only my instincts moved me. If I didn't get it back, I would no longer be myself. The promise I had made with Ryan, the memories we shared, the very proof that we had lived together, they would all vanish. With trembling hands, I pulled my smartphone out of my coat pocket and typed pawn shop along with my current location. I called every shop that came up in the list, one by one, from the top. Most of them treated me like some kind of suspicious lunatic, stammering over the phone on Christmas night, asking desperately about a missing watch. Maybe it's hopeless. Maybe that watch, Ryan's soul, was already in the hands of some complete stranger. Despair began to harden my heart like frozen asphalt. And then it happened. The seventh listing on the search results was a slightly old, privately owned-looking shop. I told myself this would be the last call. With a prayer in my heart, I pressed the call button. After a few rings, a calm male voice answered on the other end of the line. Hello, this is Harris Pawn Shop. I'm so sorry to call out of the blue. But, did someone come in today to sell a Rolex Submariner? My father. He sold my watch without asking me. My words came out shaky, even to my own ears. I barely knew what I was saying. I was sure I'd just get another cold rejection. But at that moment, something unexpected came through the receiver. A Rolex. Oh, you must be talking about the elderly gentleman who came in this afternoon. Wait a minute. Are you Ryan's wife? Ryan's name. Not from my father's mouth, nor my mother's, but from a complete stranger. Hearing his name from someone else made my heart leap, hard and loud. Yes, that's right. I'm Ryan's wife, Chloe. How do you know my husband? I thought so. I knew it. I'm the owner of this shop. My name's Harris. Sorry if I startled you. Actually, I owe Ryan a little something from back in the day. Even over the phone, Harris's voice had a warmth and a nostalgic tone that was unmistakable. When he was just getting started, he rebuilt our shop's old sign almost for free, only charging us the cost of materials. He laughed and said, "Consider it a pre-investment in a future success." He was honest, sincere, and never the type to betray others. So when this elderly man claiming to be his father came in and said, "I need money on behalf of my daughter," and tried to sell the watch Ryan cherished more than his own life, I just couldn't shake the feeling something was off. Ryan. A piece of his kindness I had never known before. That story seeped into the cracks of my dried and broken heart like a warm drop of rain. This time, the tears came not from grief, but from relief. I asked for the shop's address, thanked him again and again, and hung up before jumping into a taxi. Harris Pawn Shop stood quietly in a small alley just off a main street. Though the building was old, the interior was spotless, as if it reflected the very personality of its owner. Mr. Harris looked just like the voice I had heard, gentle eyes and graying hair, the picture of a kind gentleman. "Please, have a seat," he said, guiding me to a chair in front of the counter and silently placing a warm cup of coffee before me. "You've had a rough time." Must have been quite a shock. Just those few kind words were enough to loosen something tight within me. From beneath the counter, he brought out a familiar leather box. Ryan's Rolex. "I gave your father $8,500 in cash, just like he asked." But I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. I just couldn't believe that Ryan would give up this watch, even for his family. So I held off on writing up the final paperwork and decided to keep it here for just one more day. Call it a gut feeling. Technically speaking, the transaction's still in a gray zone. Mr. Harris quietly opened the box in front of me. The silver shine hit my eyes with dazzling brilliance. There it was, Ryan's watch. It looked just a little smaller than I remembered, as if it had shrunk from loneliness after losing its owner. I don't plan to pry into whatever circumstances you're going through. But Ryan was not the kind of man who would ever sell this watch. I guarantee that. So this belongs with you. But the money, $8,500 is a lot, and I can't possibly pay that right now. Forget the money. Let me repay my debt to Ryan here and now. If he were watching from heaven, I bet he'd be laughing and saying, "Nice one, Harris. Now, take it. That's where it belongs." With trembling hands, I received the watch. Its cool, solid weight felt almost like Ryan's warmth itself. Tears slid down my cheeks, one after another, falling onto the watch's glass. I thanked him again and again tearfully. When I stepped out of the shop, the cold Christmas air felt soothing against my burning cheeks. Clutched tightly in my hand, the watch felt as if Ryan's heart had started beating once more. At that moment, I still had no idea that this watch held not only memories, but a path forward that Ryan had left for me. This miraculous reunion was only the beginning, the prologue to the real battle that lay ahead. Leaving Harris Pawn Shop behind, I went straight back to my apartment. The moment I locked the door and secured the chain, the tension that had held me upright all day suddenly snapped, and I collapsed to the floor. The weight in my hand, the cool touch of metal. Ryan's soul, which I thought I had lost forever, had returned to my arms like a miracle. I clutched the watch tightly to my chest and cried silently. It wasn't out of anger toward my father or disappointment in my sister. It was the overwhelming relief that he had come back to me, and the endless love I still held for Ryan that poured out as hot tears. I don't know how long I stayed like that. Eventually, after regaining a bit of composure, I sat at the table in the living room and faced Ryan's watch again. With a soft cleaning cloth, I gently and carefully wiped away the traces of tears and fingerprints. Just like Ryan always used to do. His fingerprints were no longer there. But as I did this, it almost felt like he was sitting right beside me, smiling and saying, "Thanks for taking such good care of it." That's when I noticed it. Something I had never paid attention to before, a faint, clearly artificial catch on the side of the watch. Directly opposite the crown. A tiny slit, so small that it disappeared completely depending on how the light hit it. What is this? A scratch? No, that's not it. It wasn't the kind of irregular scratch you'd get from bumping into something. It was like a single line drawn with precision machinery, too perfect to be accidental. Almost as if guided by something, I placed the tip of my nail against the slit. Holding my breath, I hesitantly applied a tiny bit of pressure. Click! A faint mechanical sound echoed, clearly audible in the otherwise silent room. At that moment, a section of the case back, which I had always believed to be a single solid piece of metal, slid open with unbelievable smoothness and no sound at all. "No way." A whisper escaped my lips. There, carefully avoiding the inner workings of the intricate gears, was an ultra-small compartment, a hidden chamber. Inside it lay a piece of paper, folded impossibly small and tight, along with a tiny key, no thicker than a necklace chain, resting together as if they had been curled up beside each other for a long, long time. My heart began to pound like a drum. What is this? Ryan, why didn't you ever say anything about this? With trembling fingers, I gently retrieved the paper as if handling a butterfly's wing, then slowly unfolded it on the table, holding my breath the whole time. As the creases softened and the paper opened, there appeared a line of handwriting unmistakably Ryan's, written in fine pen strokes. It was his handwriting from when he was healthy, strong, kind, and the script I had always loved. To my beloved Chloe. If you're reading this letter in some way, it means my greatest fear has come true. This watch was taken from you, against your will. My breath stopped. A rush of blood surged backward through my body. Ryan. He knew. He had seen the truth I had tried so hard not to believe, the real nature of my family. He had foreseen that someday, they would hurt me deeply and irreparably. I am truly sorry if this startled you. But there's something I needed you to know. I've always been afraid that your family would one day take advantage of your boundless kindness and consume you. You always laughed and said, "You're overthinking it," and defended them. That's why I left this behind as a last line of protection, just in case. This key is for a safety deposit box at First Central Bank. Box number 1224. Do you remember? That's our anniversary. The words blurred as tears filled my eyes. December 24th. Christmas Eve. It was the day we had our first date. And the day he, in a trembling voice, proposed to me. A day I could never, ever forget. And now, ironically, on this very day, I was reading this letter. When this watch leaves your possession, that will be the sign from me. The sign that it's finally time for you to truly break free from them. Trust me and move forward. You're much, much stronger than you think you are. I clutched the letter to my chest and sobbed. Ryan. How? How could you have seen all of this coming? And why didn't I listen to your warnings sooner? The regret and his unwavering love, even after death, were too much to bear. The next morning, having barely slept at all, I made my way to First Central Bank. I passed through the grand marble lobby, so silent it seemed to swallow sound, and followed an attendant down into the depths of the vault floor. The attendant held the master key, while I held the tiny one Ryan had left behind. Only when both keys were inserted did the heavy iron door creak open with a resounding thud. The bank employee respectfully exited the room, and I was left alone in the silence of the private vault booth. In front of me sat a metal box. With a deep breath, I reached for it, like I was opening Pandora's box. It felt heavier than I'd expected, not just physically, but with the weight of time itself. When I lifted the lid, the first thing I saw was a thick manila envelope and a worn black leather notebook. And beneath them, there was one more letter, carefully written on a sheet of stationery. I picked up that final letter first. Chloe, you've come this far on your own. You must have been scared, hurt, and tempted to give up more times than I can imagine. I'm so sorry. But the fact that you're reading this now means you've kept our promise. You've taken your first step into the unknown. And that alone is proof of your bravery. Thank you, from the bottom of my heart. His words of encouragement, as if he could see everything from afar, brought fresh tears to my eyes. The contents of the envelope are bearer bonds. They were originally prepared for you by your grandfather the year you were born, and I've been holding on to them. By now, they should have grown in value. The notebook contains a complete list of outstanding receivables from the private business I ran, every contract, every client, every cent still unpaid. Think of both as a small war chest to help you begin your new life, one where no one can interfere. With trembling hands, I opened the envelope and checked the face value of the bonds. $100,000. What would that be at the current rate? When I flipped through the notebook, I found everything recorded in Ryan's precise handwriting, clients, amounts, contract dates, and a clear list of deals that had not yet been settled. Each entry was undeniable proof of how earnestly and meticulously he had worked. But Chloe, what I really wanted to leave you wasn't just scraps of paper like these. Money disappears someday. But there's one thing no one can ever take from you. What I truly wanted to leave behind was your freedom to live your own life, by your own will, on your own feet. You've always been too kind. You've always put yourself last and played the version of Chloe that others wanted, especially around your family. But you don't need to do that anymore. You have the right and the worth to be happy more than anyone. You are the only woman I ever loved. So never again let anyone exploit your life. This is our final promise. I love you with all my heart. By the time I finished reading the letter, the tears streaming down my cheeks had stopped without me realizing. In their place, I felt something rise from deep within me, quiet, yet burning like magma. This vast, profound love that Ryan had left me, even at the cost of his own life. The one thing I could never allow myself to do was waste it. All right, Ryan, I promise. I will never let your love, or your final wish, go to waste. With trembling hands, I carefully packed everything from the safety deposit box into my bag, making sure not to overlook a single item. When I stepped out through the bank's revolving doors, the winter sun felt almost blindingly bright. My footsteps were stronger than when I had arrived, steady, and without even a trace of hesitation. What lay ahead wasn't some grim act of revenge. It was a sacred battle for my future, and for the true version of myself that Ryan had entrusted me to reclaim. With Ryan's final wish pressed to my heart, my first destination wasn't a law office, but the nearest police station. With shaking hands, I wrote down my father's and sister's names and formally filed a criminal complaint and a theft report. The moment I received the copy of the accepted report, I knew there was no turning back. With that momentum, I headed straight to the bank. It was time to legally secure and transfer the contents of the safety deposit box Ryan had left me to a secure location. Sensing my situation, the vault attendant quietly handed me a business card. Ma'am, if you're facing any legal issues, for matters like inheritance and estate protection, this attorney is the most trustworthy. I'm sure he'll be able to help you. The name written on the card was Mr. Bennett of Bennett Law Office. I called immediately to make an appointment and went to see Mr. Bennett, where I explained everything, what had happened so far, and that I had just submitted the report to the police. After reviewing the bonds and Ryan's notebook, Mr. Bennett gave a quiet, resolute nod. I see. Your husband was truly an exceptional man. And you are incredibly brave. Reporting it to the police was absolutely the right move. This isn't something that can be settled sentimentally. It's a matter that must be addressed under the law. Leave the asset recovery your husband entrusted to you in my hands. You need to focus on doing what you must do now. With those words pushing me forward, I headed to the final stage. It was the family reunion, an annual gathering where all the relatives came together at my father's childhood home. For my father, it was the day when he could proudly act as the head of the family in front of everyone. And I had chosen that very day to be the day of judgment. As expected, the large room was filled with uncles, aunts, and cousins. My father was in high spirits, drinking happily, while my mother bustled around attentively. When I entered the room, my father called out cheerfully, "Oh, Chloe, you came," as if the Christmas incident had never happened. That insensitivity erased any final hesitation I had left. I waited until the drinks had made their rounds and the mood was lively, then quietly stood up. "Everyone, I apologize for interrupting your enjoyment. But I have something I must report to you in my own words." My voice, unusually firm and clear, brought complete silence to the room. I could see the expressions on my father's, mother's, and Emily's faces tighten. I explained calmly and objectively what had happened on Christmas Day, that my father had stolen Ryan's keepsake watch and sold it without my permission to pay off Emily's debt. Then I laid out on the table, one by one where everyone could see, a photo of the watch's hidden compartment, a copy of the letter retrieved from the safety deposit box, and a copy of the police report that had been officially filed and accepted. Dad, you and Emily worked together to steal Ryan's keepsake. This is not just a family dispute. It is a clear case of theft. One of my uncles turned to my father and demanded, "Ethan, what is the meaning of this?" My father's face turned red, then pale, as he stammered excuses like, "No, I did it for Chloe's sake." My sister simply looked down and cried. This was the public exposure I had intended. A social penalty within the very community where they cared most about appearances, the family. They would no longer be able to play the role of the honorable father or the pitiful little sister within the family circle. And then I continued. Ryan left me many things, not just money or assets. What I truly received was the freedom to live my own life, free from exploitation by anyone. And I believe that freedom also includes the freedom to let go of the burden of holding on to hatred toward others. I stood in front of my father and my sister. The other day, I filed a police report. The investigation is underway. You will face legal consequences. That is the rightful punishment for the crimes you committed. Their faces were drained of color. But, I continued, I don't wish for you to end up in prison. There's only one thing I truly want: genuine, heartfelt remorse. So I'm offering you a condition. You are to repay the full $8,500, the amount for the stolen watch, to my attorney within 1 month, and you must apologize sincerely to both me and to Ryan in heaven, in front of all our relatives. If you do this, I will, in consultation with Mr. Bennett, consider withdrawing the criminal complaint. The word consider held all the weight I needed it to. I wasn't saying I forgave them. I was saying I was giving them a chance. And I made it clear that the power to decide rested solely with me. After that, I left the house. What followed was dramatic. Facing fierce criticism from relatives, my father's pride was utterly shattered. He must have scraped together money from every source imaginable. 2 weeks later, I was informed that he and my sister appeared at Mr. Bennett's office, looking completely worn out, paid the $8,500 in cash, and apologized deeply. After receiving the thick envelope of cash from Mr. Bennett, my next destination was obvious: Harris Pawn Shop. To the man who had given me the only light on that dark Christmas night of despair. When I slid open the shop's wooden door, Mr. Harris greeted me with a surprised look. "What brings you here at this hour?" he asked, smiling gently. I placed the envelope on the counter and took out the stack of bills inside. "Mr. Harris, this is the money for the watch. My father repaid it. Please, accept it." Mr. Harris looked at the pile of cash in front of him and furrowed his brows with a troubled expression. "Now hold on, ma'am. I told you I consider that the cost of a valuable lesson. That money belongs with you. I can't accept it now. No." I shook my head firmly. This is my way of bringing closure. Ryan was someone who always stayed true to his principles, no matter what. As his wife, I want to do the same. Without your kindness, I wouldn't have been able to recover Ryan's soul. Only when you accept this money will this story truly come to an end. Please, I'm asking you. Mr. Harris stayed silent for a moment, looking into my serious eyes. Then he let out a gentle sigh and smiled warmly. "Well, you've got me beat. You've really become strong. Ryan must be so proud of you in heaven." "All right. I'll gladly accept it." With this, the matter is truly settled. When he finally took the money, I felt the last trace of murkiness in my heart vanish completely. As promised, I withdrew the police report. But that didn't mean reconciliation. It simply meant the transaction was complete. Half a year passed. I started a new life and was happily attending web design school. One day, a letter arrived from my mother. In shaky handwriting, it read, "Dear Chloe, we did something unforgivable. We hurt both you and Ryan deeply. If you hadn't brought everything to light that day, we would have continued living in ignorance, never realizing the weight of our sins. Now, all we can do is apologize. I truly hope that one day, even just once more, we'll be able to speak again, not as family yet, but as people. Even after reading that letter, my heart didn't waver. But I didn't cry either. I quietly placed the letter in the back of the drawer where Ryan's Rolex was kept. I don't know if the day will come when I can forgive them. But the time Ryan left me, it's mine now. How I overcome the past, how I live the future, that's up to me. The Rolex on my wrist began ticking with a steady rhythm, marking the beginning of my new time.